So people have been begging me to react to this interview by the game business. World of Warcraft bosses on aging players midnight and expanding the Warcraft IP. I skipped this entire beginning section because everyone's telling me to watch from here, the classic WoW section. So we're going to open this up and we're going to watch the whole thing about how Holly and Ian respond and react to classic WoW.
One thing I'm always fascinated with, because I live in Cambridge, so I live near Jagex, and their thing with RuneScape and RuneScape, old school RuneScape, I find that absolutely fascinating. I know that's completely transformed that company. And obviously, I've not spoken to you since the classic version of World of Warcraft, which was just ages ago now. But so I'm interested to know, what have you learned from that? What's that done since bringing that out?
Classic?
Yeah.
She looks so disappointed to be talking about classic. Why does she look so disappointed? Like, oh, classic. Oh, those classic Andes. Man, those classic players. All they do is bitch and moan and complain. They asked for classic, we gave them classic. Then they demanded TBC, so we gave them TBC, but it wasn't enough. Then they start demanding Wrath of the Lich King. And I'm like, can you guys stop bitching and moaning? And then, of course, we gave them Cataclysm and Mr. Pandaria, and they're like, we don't want this. We don't want this, so we gave them Season of Mastery, and then we gave them Season of Discovery, and they still won't stop bitching. So we then gave them Anniversary, and they ruined the game for themselves. Those classic Andes. Oh, what a terrible player base. Oh. And I've been going to the gym. Yeah, every day.
That was my starting point on World of Warcraft.
Down 150 pounds. A lot of work. But I mean, it's not perfect, but you know, it's what it is.
I think a few months after it launched. I think for the internal team, it was unexpected. For those of us on the outside, it was like, well, obviously, you know. But the scale and scope of it outpaced anything anyone could imagine, not just in numbers, but in audience and passion. They are completely different for the most part than modern players.
Oh, sounds okay.
They behave differently. They want different things.
I'll say it right now. Classic players play classic WoW to the same sweatiness as retail players. They just don't want the same difficulty of retail players. They want to sweat the same amount. They just don't want to have the difficulty. That's why we got speed running and 40-minute Naxxramases and absolute degenerate gameplay. Very reminiscent of splits and things in retail, but specifically designed for classic WoW.
We don't have a whole lot of crossover between both games.
Really?
So that team is listening very keenly to that audience, and they always have. Even in terms of pacing of patches, and it's all very engineered for the audience that is specific to Classic.
Oh, wow.
And then, you know...
I do want to say one thing. I would like a little bit more communication, because the retail team gets interviews once every 2 weeks. There's a new interview from a retail developer. There's communication and blue posts and tweets. There's always brand new videos about retail. And for Classic, it's like 7 cavemen grunting and hollering at a fire, waiting for the smoke signal from the other fire across the hill. That hill is Blizzard corporate, and behind it is the Classic dev team, and we're over here going, "Ooh, smoke signal, smoke signal, when smoke signal?" Like, I would like some slightly more active communication. But like, aside from that, you know, yeah.
In my early times, especially when I came to Classic from the outside, seeing this amazing transformation, obviously in partnership with Ian the entire time and the rest of the leadership team, is this idea of, you know, can we as World of Warcraft do a bit of experimentation? Because we hear what they want. Can we do this idea of seasons for Classic just to get a picture? What do they really want? And in some cases, they created it themselves. Like,
interesting. The way she spoke about it there, like, I'm gonna go back a second. Just listen to the wording there.
Idea of can we as World of Warcraft do a bit of experimentation? Because we hear what they want. Can we do this idea of seasons for Classic just to get a picture?
Can we experiment? Can we do seasons just to get the idea of a picture? I wonder how long Holly and Ian have been thinking about Classic Plus, but never pulled the trigger on it until Phil Spencer came. Because we got Season of Mastery, then we got Season of Discovery. And now they've been teasing like a motherfucker, blue balling the whole community about, Classic Plus, Classic 2, whatever they're going to call it, the Forever Season. But it's interesting to see them like discussing how the Classic player base, what they want, how they want it, what it should look like. So I'm curious to see what that end product ends up actually being.
What do they really want? And in some cases, they created it themselves, like Hardcore. And we thought the ability to pivot on the Classic team and create Hardcore and launch it as an official realm, like that to me, that's what we're aiming for, is reactivity to what the players, not just those who create it themselves, what we're hearing, where the trends are, what the mood is. And I think, some of them are bigger lists like housing. And Classic, it's on a long journey of, I hate to say discovery given Season of Discovery, but we're in a very exploratory space with Classic, and we are listening. But it has, at a foundational level, changed how the WoW team thinks about the content they create and make, in that it can be reactive while they are committed to what Classic is. Like there's era that is the unchanged.
Interesting. So Holly, like I know a lot of people kind of like you want to shit on Holly, whatever, but we only really got Season of Discovery post Microsoft. We only really got a lot of like things that are doing well in Classic recently in new Blizzard. The new updated Blizzard, post Activision of Blizzard. So I'm going to be real. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh my god, retail lady bad. Oh my god, the retail lady going to ruin the game. I kind of feel like Holly might be the reason we actually get Classic Plus. No, SOD was launched with Blizzard, with Microsoft. SOD was not Activision. SOD was launched post Microsoft. Yep. 2 months after the acquisition closed, 3 months. Okay, we can actually take a quick look at when it actually closed. Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard deal close date. October 13th. When did Season of Discovery launch? It was November 30th. November 30th. 60 days afterwards. And just so you guys are aware, Season of Discovery the whole time was 4 to 8 weeks ahead of schedule. Season of Discovery from beginning to end was barely a patch ahead the entire time. Agron talked about this and the devs talked about this. They truly were on the nose of things. They were going ham, like back to back to back. They were barely ahead of schedule. The SOD devs winged everything. So literally, Microsoft buys them and we get Season of Discovery. I'm not sure which person at Blizzard pitched that to Microsoft, but somebody went to Phil Spencer and said, yo, Phil, Season of Discovery? And Phil was like, how much money? None, we just need permission. Go for it. And then SOD success. Oh man, SOD success, goddamn.
Changed version of Classic. And then we have progression, which is reliving how expansions roll out. And we were completely staggered that for the anniversary rollout, that was just as popular as anything else we've done. And in my own history in this MMO industry, there is this group of players that cycle over cycle will keep doing it and want to relive those moments, those day one moments and, year one moments. So again, very different behavior than modern.
Wow.
Different ethos. And so those teams are obviously separate because their focus is entirely different.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
For the longest time, the classic dev team was like 5, 10 people, like a small team working adjacent with retail. Now they're like 45, 50, 60 people, and they're growing. I'm not sure the exact size, man. We haven't had an update. Last I knew, it was 43 employees, give or take. I'm not sure if that was 43 coders or if it was 43 people with server people, community people, like whatever. Like all I know is there's 43 people last I knew. I'm not sure where that number is now. Maybe they lost some people, maybe they got more people, maybe some of those were retail people, but I'd say it's over 40, maybe as high as 60 employees now. 42 managers and 1 developer.
So I know we're not talking about Classic really, but I just find it fascinating because Jagex barely change anything in old school RuneScape. They've been like, they're terrified of upsetting that core players, like something like 70% or whatever of people have to agree to any changes they make. And it sounds like you've got almost multiple different versions of how you approach it, which is even also interesting, fascinating.
That's how we started. Like when we first relaunched Classic in 2019, the mantra at the time was like literally hashtag no changes. It's what our community wanted. The community viewed this 2004 game as the perfect game, and we went out of our way to even reproduce bugs and to reproduce quirks in the game.
In combat.
After I think once a community was playing the game, now it's a living organism, and like any MMO, it belongs to them as much as it does to us. And I think they came to the realization that like, no, there are areas where they would like to see change. They would like to see some things tweaked. And I think that gave the team license to begin to experiment. And yeah, it's just been a fun example of the broadening of the opportunities and avenues that we try to offer to the World of Warcraft community. I mean, they are largely separate games at this point, largely separate communities, but all part of, like all under this World of Warcraft umbrella and part of our community worldwide.
Fascinating. You've been part of Microsoft now for quite a while. They've obviously got a load of things they do when it comes to servicing, but you obviously are even more experienced in many other ways than they are. How have you found life under there?
Before they talk about Microsoft, I do want to say, like, in regards to changes, it is kind of interesting because, like, it's really intriguing to see them talk about how all the player bases are relatively different. Like, the fact that the modern player base, for the most part, doesn't play anything else. The progression, the mob servers are mostly only play progression. The era crowd only plays era. The anniversary crowd was new players. It's really interesting to see them talk about how the player base is so wildly different. But I do want to say it's rather interesting to hear that they said nothing about SOD there. They didn't really touch on Classic Plus or Season of Mastery or Season of Discovery. They just left it at... So anyways, yeah. Like, we know they're working on something. Like, at this point, you guys saying something here isn't going to change anybody's mind. But it would be nice to hear something.
There's been a lot of collaboration, a lot of working together.
I think, honestly, one of the best things about it has been, you know, like we get on calls with the Elder Scrolls team, we talk to them, we get insights from Minecraft and chat with them, and it does unlock all this opportunity that probably would have been there if we made the phone call. But other than that, we don't really feel their presence. Like, we don't feel a Microsoft presence. I think they've been very trusting and supportive of the work we're doing.
Microsoft only does that for companies that earn 30% profit margins or more. The Classic dev team is over 30, Retail's over 30, Overwatch is over 30, Hearthstone is over 30, Diablo 4 is over 30. Did you see the executive on LinkedIn for Diablo 4? Diablo 4 is the most sold Blizzard game of all time. That means Diablo 4 sold over 35 million copies. Do you know how fucking insane that is? 35 million copies? That is absolutely diabolical that Diablo 4 is the most sold game of all time. Now, the dev could just be exaggerating. Maybe he meant playtime for the Diablo franchise. His wording was a bit vague. But he said it's the most successful Blizzard game of all time. And I was just like, damn. Damn. Insane. So yeah, Blizzard doesn't get any Microsoft oversight because Microsoft only oversights you when you're failing and not performing.
To say the phrase, you know, keep cooking, like keep doing what you do. And we're doing that with insights and sharing knowledge with other teams and having visits with them. And I think that's one of the joyous things. And the other side of it too is looking at all the opportunity that, you know, being part of Microsoft can deliver for our players. Like, where are the opportunities there for, you know, as we want to grow? And there's, you know, probably some obvious glaring topics in there. But that to me is where the opportunity lies. I've only seen it so far consequential only in the positive way. They've been inclusive. We get to hear and see really cool things that are coming up that we wouldn't see otherwise.
Oh, great.
But obviously it's the connections and learnings, especially from Elder Scrolls and Minecraft and other live service games where, you know, what can we share? What can we learn? Where are we going? What are we seeing? It's fantastic.
Okay. I'm going to go back to something you said earlier, which was around sometimes you just want to try stuff. I'm interested in this because obviously you want to listen to the players. That's the whole strategy. If you've got a successful live service business, you listen to the players, you react to the players. And that's what we've talked about throughout this whole chat. But also your creators, your artists, right? You want to come up with new ideas and innovations and stuff. You want to give players things they didn't even realize they wanted, right? And so how do you strike that balance between wanting to create and innovate and just break stuff? And obviously also the most important thing, which is making sure we react to what they're saying.
I think listening to players is less about hearing them say, we want X, and then going and making X. It's more about them telling us what they enjoy, what they're frustrated with, what they wish there was more of, and both, telling us through forums.
Sorry, guys. What I said was you think you do, but you don't. Listening is a two-way street. Sometimes we're stupid, sometimes they're stupid. So, it's just something for them to keep in mind.
Through social media, through in-game feedback, but also just through data, through their behavior, and making sure we have, good analytics so that we're understanding what our silent majority or plurality of players are actually doing with their time. The people who aren't necessarily going to forums or to X or whatever to talk to us. And then, just trying to serve those motivations. I think one of the most exciting features that we've added to WoW in recent years, Holly referenced it earlier. It was a feature called Delves that we added in the War Within expansion that are basically, very dynamic solo or small group dungeons that rather than needing a pre-made group to do, you can just do on your own in your own time.
So they said this before, and one thing that it was Holly that said this, I'm pretty sure, is that less than 1/3 of the retail player base raids. A lot of people collect, pet farm, transmog collection, mount hunters, people who just do secrets, role players. There's a huge portion of the player base that just does random shit that has nothing to do with anything else. They don't care about the end game or the PvP. So Delves being one of the most successful features they've added in a long time checks out. It's kind of the same thing as hardcore, right? Hardcore for the most part is a very solo game. And so hardcore being as amazing and well received as it is, must have been surprising to them to see how many people truly just wanted to do hardcore or wanted to do Delves, that single player content in a massively multiplayer online role playing game.
That's not something players were explicitly asking for, but what we were seeing was that there were tons of players who played solo, who maybe played with a single friend, who, engaged with the game deeply, but then kind of hit a wall at our end game where it felt like you needed to join a large group in order to progress further, in order to do anything. And so, understanding that gap, understanding this audience's need is a big part of what led us to say, okay, we're going to prioritize really adding a true deep end game for them. And that's become and remains a pillar of World of Warcraft today and going forward. And I think it's something that, some players, it was interesting to see a lot of our loudest players, frankly, a lot of our influencers, content creators, were skeptical about the feature when it was initially announced.
You know what I'm skeptical about as a content creator? That you're gonna make me wait until BlizzCon. I know it's a major, big announcement. I know it's a huge announcement to get Classic Plus, but I'm begging. Ian, please. At least tell me the name. At least say Classic 2 by accident or some shit. Leak the name at least.
Because it wasn't for them.
Right.
They were already enjoying going into raids with 15 other people or whatever, and kind of wondered, why is Blizzard wasting their time on this thing? Turns out, Delves are, one of the most popular features we've ever made. They just weren't aimed necessarily at our hardcore audience, but, it's what players needed.
Yeah, that must be difficult. When you've got so many different audiences, all different shapes and sizes, all wanting different things.
It's hard. It's really hard not to.
Yo, Holly, interview me, Holly Longdale. Let me get Ian Hazakostas and Holly Longdale on a fucking interview. Let me ask about Classic, guys. 30-minute interview about Classic. Let me ask the questions the community has.
to react and not to overreact. So, grateful that we have all these avenues to collect data so we can try and get the true story, not the story of the moment,
I think it's one of the hallmarks of World of Warcraft. I think from a developer's perspective, boy, is it challenging. Well, it would be so much simpler if we could just pick one or two play styles and say, okay, we're going to make the game for these players and we're going to hyper serve them. And it would be much easier for everyone, and it would be a far worse game. And I think part of the magic of World of Warcraft is that you can have a dozen different people who all identify as serious WoW players.
You guys,
sit them around a table and ask them what it is that they like about the game and what they do when they log in, and you could hear a dozen different stories. But all of those people cohabit players, a dozen different game. And I think part of the magic of World of Warcraft is that you can have a dozen different people who all identify as serious WoW players. You could sit them around a table and ask them what it is that they like about the game and what they do when they log in, and you could hear a dozen different stories.
Same thing on Classic Plus. Ask 10 Classic players what Classic Plus is. You're gonna get 10 different fucking answers, guys.
But all of those people cohabit the same interconnected MMO world, and that world is so much richer for all of those different perspectives than it would be if we just picked one or two play styles and said, okay, we're going to cater to those at the expense of everything else.
And I just wanted to say, when you were asking about, how do we make sure we, as creators, are doing what we think players want? And, we have all this information at our backs, but really, even when we talk about the inception of an expansion, if we take Last Titan, for example, it's sitting in a room and it's like, we're gamers. We love WoW. What do we want to see? What do we want this game to do? And we go through what's going to make us sit up and notice, not just our player base, but what are we super passionate about? And you get
the story. Please fix the fucking story. Come on, Holly. You run the whole company. You run the whole WoW team. For the love of all that's holy, please make the story good in retail again.
Incredible ideas that are innovations grounded in, a passion for the game, and where we see the world can evolve a little bit for players. So there is absolutely room. I'm really proud of the team and the fact that we go in informed. So these aren't whims. They're based on a foundation of solving a problem, which our team is incredibly good at.
This is really good. It's really fascinating chat, getting insight into how you're working and the team and all of that. But I'm interested to know then, and obviously I'm not asking for a detailed roadmap here, but I often say, what's the 5-year plan? What's the 10-year plan? I guess if you can have a 10-year plan in video games, I don't know if that's remotely possible. But what's the long-term vision of where you'd like to end up?
I mean, top line, we want everybody to be able to play WoW. I will say this for myself. I think Warcraft itself is poised for growth. It's a fantastic IP. I think, in my humble opinion, it's been underutilized, and I just want to bring it to as many people as possible.
WoW animated show similar to Arcane, a WoW animated show similar to Vox Machinima. Honestly, bring back a physical WoW TCG. I'd fucking buy a physical WoW TCG. On top of that, let's see, a Warcraft RPG game. Guys, insane opinion. What if we had a Warcraft RTS? Who would ever imagine a Warcraft RTS? WoW as an RTS? Ain't no way. A Fallout style TV show, maybe about the story about the rise and fall of Arthas and the rise of the Lich King. Let's see what else. I know, not like Hearthstone, that's an online game. I mean, like a physical TCG, like a Riftbound. A single player RPG, a CRPG like Baldur's Gate, but set in Warcraft. Oh man, they could do so much.
And that means, evolving what Warcraft means, what it is, and where it's going. We want it to be approachable. And that's also part of it. even with Chris Metzen, we talk about, sometimes he's like, man, I wish we hadn't called it Warcraft. It sounds kind of intimidating. I'm like, nobody really thinks that about Warhammer. It's just, it's an understood name, essentially. So this idea of third space in our online worlds, we couldn't even define what.
I don't think Chris would say that. Maybe he did, though. Maybe new Chris is different. I don't know. They call the world of Warcraft to kind of steal from Warhammer a bit. I don't know, that feels like a weird thing to say. But I could honestly see why Chris said that, because he probably has access to back-end information. It probably has access to some back-end information where, like, okay. I want to say something. I'm just debating if I should say it. All I'm going to say is no. And I'm going to move on. I'm going to leave it at that. You know what? I'm just going to leave it right there, guys. You know what? Let me not ruin some fucking bridges right here.
That means exactly, but we're working on figuring that out. We want people to come in and hang out and have birthdays, have weddings, have raids, grand adventures, play with their friends, meet new friends, like all the things that traditionally for over 20 years World of Warcraft has been good at. And at the same time, we want to take advantage of 20 years of stories that have been told and not told and start bringing it out to the world in a broader way. Like, that's my goal and vision. And I know Ian supports it. And, when we do hear these impassioned cries from, parents who are like, please, let me play this game with my kids. I just want to hang out with my kids. And I don't want to do it in other games. I want to do it in the game.
My son's going to fish for me in Classic Plus. He's going to make daddy money so daddy can go and actually play the raids. Because I don't really want to fish, but fishing makes money.
Game I love. And so that's a minor seed of the vast, potential garden of, people who love incredible challenges. Like, what are we going to do for them in the future? How do we roll in the community? And, one of the lovely things about housing that's a reminder to us is, we only kicked that off in earnest in December to have people filtering into it. And just to see there's now a whole community forming around how to make stuff. That to me is the beauty of MMOs. It becomes a real community, not just in-game, but in-game and out, that supports each other. And that.
How many people resub for WoW just for housing? How much fucking money have they made on housing? Because, man, they really love their fucking housing.
To me is the dream. And as much of that as we can create, loving community that likes to inform and be experts and share. That to me is online spaces in a fantasy realm that gives you an escape, gives you a place to hang out, gives you something to focus on when maybe things outside of that realm maybe not so good, or even if they're great and you want to share it with somebody. So I think, and Ian can speak to it too, that to me is, broadly speaking, every decision we make has that kind of thread in it. Where are we going? How do we get to this space where everyone is welcome? Tying into how they play and the activities they want to do and who they want to do it with and even who they don't want to. The whole team is excited about this idea of, we want to preserve what World of Warcraft is and what people expect. We're never going to stop doing the things we know people love. But at the same time, I think we have a bigger vision simply than an MMORPG, in my opinion.
Well, Ian, do you have anything to add to that, or is that robustly answered?
I mean, I think, yeah, we firmly believe that our best years are ahead of us. It's game design, but it's also social design, and it's trying to understand and think about, how we meet a new generation where they are. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's going to mean thinking outside the box in some places.
The modernization of WoW. How do we get the Fortnite kiddos and the Minecraft kiddos to play World of Warcraft? Hey, maybe they'll go back to user-generated content, UGC. Maybe WoW 2.0 is the WoW we make ourselves.
compared to what our game has traditionally been. But we're excited to keep taking big swings and to dream big and to do what we can to make that a reality.
Brilliant. I'm conscious of the time, and I know that you're building up to the launch of the expansion. Now you're doing stuff in game and having sort of getting people. So you're right in the midst of it. So I'll let you get back to it. But thank you so much, Ian. Thank you so much, Holly, for joining us. It's a fascinating to see Warcraft. And I do honestly believe that in like 20 years' time, we're going to get a load of retired people just flooding back in. I'm looking forward to my generation getting. I mean, a bunch of them still play, but some of them don't have as much time anymore. So.
Oh, we can hang out. You can join our guild.
Yeah, looking for WoW parties in the old in the retirement homes. It'll happen. I believe it. I believe it will happen. Thank you so much.
Cosplay could be a thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's somebody linked me to an esports team of people, pensioner esports teams. I think it's great. That's going to happen. It's happening.
I'm in.
We're still in the early days of video games. Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Ian. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That's it for this week's episode of the Game Business Show. Thank you to Holly and Ian for joining me. I actually thought that was a really interesting chat. I didn't know what to expect, and I have sort of a burning urge now to go back and play a bit more Warcraft. We will be back, of course, with more news, analysis, insight, and interviews in the days and weeks ahead. If you want to make sure you don't miss an episode, head to thegamebusiness.com right now and sign up for our newsletter. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.
Okay, so there'll be a link to this video in the description down below. All I do gotta say though is amazing interview, interesting answers, interesting responses. And I do want to say one thing. 50 years from now, when we're all in a retirement home, we're all literally gonna be grouped up together, chat. All of us, hand in hand, all together, doing GDKPs in the retirement home, and someone's gonna bet the fucking house and not be able to pay the goddamn retirement home fucking bills and get evicted from the retirement home. I can't wait for the fucking future, chat. It's gonna be amazing. Great interview though. We're Classic Plus. We're Classic Plus. What do you mean 50, I'll be 95? I'm 29. In 50 years, I'll be 79. What the fuck? What the huh?